A Whisper of Wintersweet by Weston Ford. The snow fell softly over the rolling hills of Hampshire, England, blanketing the countryside in a pristine white that seemed to shimmer beneath the pale December sunlight. Elm Grove Manor stood majestically against the winter landscape, its red brick walls and frosted windows a beacon of warmth amid the crisp, cold afternoon. Inside the manor's elegant drawing room, Elizabeth Ashcroft sat near the crackling fireplace, her slender fingers carefully embroidering a delicate handkerchief. At 22, she was considered somewhat past the typical age of marriage, a fact her mother rarely hesitated to remind her. Her chestnut hair was pulled back in a modest chignon, and she wore a deep forest green wool dress that complemented her fair complexion. The sound of horses' hooves crunching against the snow-covered drive caught her attention. Looking up from her needlework, Elizabeth watched as a fine carriage approached the manor's circular drive. Her heart quickened when she recognized the Worthington family crest painted on the side of the vehicle. Jonathan Worthington had been a family friend for years, though recently something had shifted between them. At 28, he was a respected agricultural engineer who had been traveling extensively, developing innovative farming techniques that promised to revolutionize crop production across England. His last visit, just before his most recent journey, had left Elizabeth feeling something she had never experienced before, a flutter of genuine romantic interest. When the butler announced Mr. Worthington's arrival, Elizabeth's composure momentarily wavered. She smoothed her dress and took a deep breath, willing her racing heart to calm. "Miss Ashcroft," Jonathan said, bowing slightly as he entered the drawing room. His tall frame was encased in a fine wool traveling coat, and snowflakes clung to the dark hair near his temples. "I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all, Mr. Worthington," Elizabeth replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Would you care for some tea? I'm sure Cook can prepare something warm to chase away the winter's chill." Jonathan's smile was warm and genuine. "That would be most welcome, thank you." As the tea was prepared and served, they began to converse. Jonathan spoke of his recent travels through the agricultural regions of Yorkshire, describing the innovative irrigation systems he was developing. Elizabeth listened with rapt attention, her initial nervousness giving way to genuine fascination. "You seem truly passionate about your work," she observed, watching how his eyes lit up when discussing agricultural improvements. "It's more than work," Jonathan explained. "It's about helping farmers increase their yields, about improving lives. My designs could mean the difference between hardship and prosperity for many families." Elizabeth was impressed. Unlike many gentlemen of his social standing who might be content to simply manage inherited estates, Jonathan was actively working to create meaningful change. Their conversation was interrupted by Elizabeth's father, Richard Ashcroft, who entered the drawing room. A distinguished gentleman in his late 50s, he carried himself with the gravitas of a successful landowner. "Ah, Worthington," he exclaimed. "Wonderful to see you. I trust your travels have been productive." The men discussed agricultural economics and local politics, with Elizabeth listening attentively. She observed Jonathan's interactions, his respect for her father, his articulate manner of speaking, the way he balanced professional insight with genuine warmth. As the afternoon progressed, an invitation was extended for Jonathan to join the Ashcrofts for Christmas dinner, a tradition that had become almost expected in recent years. Elizabeth felt a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation at the prospect. The weeks leading up to Christmas were filled with preparations. The manor was decorated with fresh evergreen garlands, candles were polished, and the kitchen became a bustling center of activity. Seasonal preparations were always an elaborate affair, and the Ashcrofts took great pride in hosting a memorable Christmas celebration. On Christmas Eve, a gentle snowstorm transformed the landscape into a scene reminiscent of a landscape painting. The trees were laden with snow, and icicles hung like delicate crystalline decorations from the manor's eaves. Elizabeth found herself increasingly preoccupied with thoughts of Jonathan. Their conversations had revealed a depth of character that went far beyond mere social pleasantries. He was kind, intelligent, and driven by a genuine desire to improve the world around him. The night of the Christmas dinner arrived. Elizabeth wore a deep burgundy gown that complemented her complexion with delicate lace at the collar and sleeves. As the guests gathered in the dining hall, candlelight flickered against the fine china and polished silverware, creating an atmosphere of warmth and intimacy. Jonathan arrived promptly, bringing with him a small, carefully wrapped package. When the appropriate moment presented itself, he approached Elizabeth and presented the gift. "A small token," he said, his eyes meeting hers. "I hope you'll find it meaningful." Inside was a delicate necklace featuring a wintersweet flower, a rare, winter-blooming plant symbolizing courage and hope. The silver work was intricate, clearly crafted by a skilled artisan. "It's beautiful," Elizabeth whispered, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. As the evening progressed, their connection became increasingly apparent to those around them. The way they conversed, the subtle glances, the shared moments of laughter, it was clear something special was developing. When the clock struck midnight and Christmas Day officially began, Jonathan asked Elizabeth to join him for a brief walk in the snow-covered garden. Bundled in warm shawls and coats, they walked among the dormant rose bushes and evergreen trees. "Elizabeth," Jonathan said softly, "I find myself increasingly drawn to you, not just by your beauty, but by your compassion, your intelligence, your genuine interest in the world." Her heart raced. "And I find myself equally drawn to you, Jonathan." Under the soft moonlight, surrounded by the hushed beauty of a winter's night, Jonathan took Elizabeth's gloved hand. Their first kiss was gentle, filled with promise and tender affection. Their love story was just beginning, a romance born from mutual respect, shared passions, and the magical possibility that exists in a moment suspended between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. As they returned to the warmth of the manor, Elizabeth knew that this Christmas would be remembered not just as a celebration of the season, but as the moment when her life would be forever changed.